Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Matthew Granahan. What's up,
Hey,
King
what's
of
happening?
Connecticut? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How was your Christmas, Staxx?
It was great. I had a really good Christmas, man. My family, we were all hanging out. It was pretty chill. Got the toy drive done. A lot of good things.
Yeah, you're doing great work. I
Thank
saw that. Me and my dad used to help out a lot in Connecticut with Hungry. We used to do Hunters for the Hungry. So when we would donate a lot of venison and wild turkey, and I mean we shot everything, pigeons, like everything. When we would always donate in Bridgeport, and then later on when I was in college, I worked for the Knights of Columbus drive, the food drive. So it's great to help
I'm in the
out,
Knights of
man.
Columbus. I'm a knight.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great organization. Very great organization, which a lot of people don't realize is out from Connecticut.
Yeah. Yeah, you're from Norwalk, right?
I'm from Connecticut, but a lot of people don't realize that everybody knows I'm from Connecticut. I'm the king of Connecticut, but
Yeah, man.
a lot of people don't realize that the Knights were founded in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
great
did
organization.
you hear about that zombie deer disease going around?
No, what's that all about?
Yeah, I guess a bunch of deer have been tested positive for this zombie deer disease, and I guess it can spread to humans, and it's a lot of people are on edge because of it.
Yeah, I
From
didn't know.
hearing.
Down here in Florida, I don't deer hunt as much. Although I'm going to, because I got some deer hunting property. I did bird hunted this past fall and wild turkey hunted, but haven't deer hunted since I moved to Florida a couple of years ago. So
They have
I
a lot of
wasn't
deer
really
down
up
there.
on it.
A lot of deer
Yeah, they're
down there.
smaller. The deer in Florida are smaller. This part of Florida, they're a little bigger. But see, I'm not a trophy hunter when it comes to deer. I like a nice, smaller, mid-sized deer that's tender meat. Although I have shot some bigger buck and mounted them, that's not really my thing. I don't wait for the big buck. I like to shoot a nice table-ready deer. I love that backstrap meat especially, but I love to make venison chili too with deer. I make it with goat cheese. It's really good, man. People should check out my book, Cooking with the King. And I've got my e-cookbook that's been out for 6 years now on the Amazon Kindle store, and I got some venison recipes in there. I've actually got my backstrap recipe for deer, and I also have the venison chili with the goat cheese. But for Christmas, yeah, I had a great Christmas too. When Christmas with family is great, and we pig out. We celebrate more. Christmas Eve is a big celebration. We had so many great seafood dishes. I had mussels marinara, stuffed crabs, oyster shooters. We had shrimp cocktail. We had linguine with lobster tail and scallops and crab meat and little baby neck clams. So we picked out. But then on Christmas Day, I actually I did have deer meat because I had a friend down here from the gym that gave me some venison tenderloin, and I put goat cheese on it. I seared it on both sides real fast, and
Yeah.
then baked it for 12 minutes. So it's like rare to medium rare, and then put that goat cheese was smothered on top. And man, we loved it. It's
Yeah, they
delicious.
say if you marinate like steak inside milk, I guess
Yeah.
it makes it really good.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Soaking in
Yeah.
milk is good. Soaking in buttermilk.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
keep hearing that. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah. Do you like to cook, Stacks?
Yeah, man, I love cooking.
Yeah, me too.
Just a hobby type thing, you know.
Me too. I'll send you some. I'll send you some recipes. What I'll do is I'll actually send you some videos. I'll send you one with Jenny Santana, World Jiu-Jitsu Gracie Jiu-Jitsu champion, Tito Santana's daughter, and her beautiful daughter. When I had them in the studio at Berman, and I cooked for them. And then I'll send you one with Renee Michelle from WWE, the Mistress of Wrestling, that whipped me down at the studio. I cook for some of the guests that come on in the studio at the law firm. And those two are really entertaining videos, and those are good recipes. And I show the breakdown of how I make the different meals.
Yeah, I'll put a link for your cookbook in the description of this video if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll send you the link. It's called Cooking with the King. Yeah, man, I love.
I could probably find it.
That's my favorite thing to do for family and friends is to cook. You know,
bring people together. That's what they
yeah,
say.
yeah. I'm having some scotch now, so I like to sip on my cocktails, but I like to stay off the road and keep it safe, or take an Uber if I'm having any cocktails. So I love to cook at home. That's I had all those wild.
I haven't drank in over 5 years, man.
Yeah, you were saying that. You were saying that. I was over at Larry's house a week or so ago, Larry Motz's house, and I brought him a bottle of this Chivas Regal, the 13-year aged. I'm drinking the 12-year aged now, and I like to sip on those scotches. I don't drink a lot like I used to, but I like to have a few cocktails to mellow out. But you got to be careful on the roads, man. And one of the things I do with the law firm in running cases is DUI cases. And a lot of people destroy their lives with DUIs. It's sad, man.
Yeah. One DUI could really, it'll cost you what, 10 grand? About 10 grand?
Yep, costs about 10 grand. We always advise people not to blow because we can get it dropped to reckless driving for your first one in some counties down here. But it's a hassle and it's expensive. And look at Sonny. I did some videos with Hannibal with Sonny, a past love of mine. Sonny from WWF, the old WWF. She was a really nice person, and I think had some mental issues, but she's going to spend pretty much the rest of her life in prison now.
For what? What'd she do?
She had 2 previous DUIs, and then she had one right down here in Florida, only about 25 miles from me, and the guy died. So it's pretty bad. Yeah, pretty bad, man. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for her, and it's an accident, but
that was like Hogan's son just got a DUI recently, right?
Yeah, and his friend was really messed up from the one he had years ago. So yeah, I mean,
it's terrible.
I'm a believer in really that if someone is arrested, it shouldn't be publicized because you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But I mean, I have my whole reform. I think recidivism is, and we'll get into the whole topic about the war machine and the war racket, but it's also the prison industrial complex. And I think that the powers that be, they want to keep people behind bars because it's big money. There's big business in it. And, it's sad because when people get out, I think once you paid your debt to society, that should be wiped off of your record. I mean, unless if you're a child molester or something, but generally speaking, you paid your debt to society. You shouldn't lose your Second Amendment right. I'm a big gun guy. I don't believe in people losing their Second Amendment right, especially someone who's fresh out of prison, because most of the time they're going to have to live in an area where they're going to need a gun to protect themselves more than the average person. But I also think that is the whole idea of background checks and companies not hiring people is horrible too. I think that they should go back to what they did years ago in the prisons and teach trades and teach people to get jobs, have a jobs program for when they get out. I mean, that's all kind of part of what the topic is about tonight, because I don't think that our government really cares about the people, cares about us. and they've sold us out to foreign governments years ago. You know, and
Wild.
the
What's
true
going on is wild.
yeah, it really is, man. And yeah, so if you want to get into it, the topic I wanted to talk about, you have such a great show. You had the natural Randy Couture on, who was really the face of MMA for years. You had my good buddy, UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich John, great friend of mine and really a legend in MMA as a fighter and as a broadcaster and as a coach,
Yeah.
right? But also brilliant mind, very smart guy. You had Jason Reinhardt on, who's a great guy, UFC veteran, all these guys from UFC, and then the mob world, right? Which is kind of the thrust of your show. You know, I know a
Yeah.
lot of guys from the life, and I really was kind of adverse to talking about that kind of stuff, but it's such a big genre now, right? But when you look at that genre and you look at the rackets, like whether it be shylocking, whether it be bookmaking, whether it be drug dealing, uh, and you look at any of the street rackets, and they're a drop in the bucket. They pale in comparison to the war racket. The largest, the most powerful racket of all is the war racket. And the true gangsters of the world are the Zelenskys and the Netanyahus. And I think in order to have a discussion about the war racket, we have to start at the beginning. And when I say start at the beginning, look at our forefathers. And I have a couple quotes for you here. Our forefathers, they cherished our sovereignty after we won the revolution and our independence from Great Britain. And they were non-interventionists. They wanted to avoid foreign entanglements completely. They feared standing armies. Quote from Thomas Jefferson here: "Peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none." Now compare that quote with the world today. Compare that quote with our relationship with a nefarious Middle Eastern country, Israel, where we give them billions of dollars every year. And they take that money and they use it to buy weapons from American arms manufacturers. They use it to create Hamas. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand, uh, how it works. I mean, I was watching Jimmy Dore last night. He had Alex Jones on, and Alex Jones was saying how he admired the chutzpah of Israel and Netanyahu to actually come out and say, we will fund and create our enemy to make sure we don't have peace in the region so that we can keep war going and keep war advancing. You know, and
Because it's more
Netanyahu
money.
told,
It's more money. The more they keep going, the more money
yeah,
people are making off of it because of the pipelines, the food, the bombs, the all of it. It's all money.
yeah, and I think you're. I don't know how in depth your listeners are with respect to geopolitical matters, but the way that it works in Israel with Netanyahu, and we'll go back and we'll look at how Israel was even created. Is they do not want peace, and they actually funded and created Hamas to oppose the PLO, so that the Arabs world and the Palestinians look more violent, so they could keep the war machine going, because they don't get those billions if there's peace. And
Yeah.
at the same time, as they continue to take the land from the Palestinians, build these settlements, and openly kill people. And Israel has had a policy for several decades, which is called mow the lawn, where they periodically go into Gaza and they kill people to keep them in line.
take their whole
Uh,
neighborhood over, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, what's going on now is they completely wiped out half of Gaza.
Yeah.
You just it's which is completely insane. But before that, they were mowing the lawn just to keep it going. And I really think that the October 7th was likely a false flag because it gave Netanyahu the chutzpah to go out and have this genocide, this mass murder. But none of that stuff happened in a vacuum, though. Staxx. If we go back in time, and I'll give you one other quote from George Washington. It is our true policy to steer clear of any permanent alliances with any portion of the free world, which is crazy because now we have bases in countries most people can't even pronounce.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And we're getting attacked too, left and right, man. There's been over 100 attacks on U.S. troops on foreign soil.
This is
And it's
how
like,
this is how I explain it to people, Staxx, and I put it in like what I call a dude speak. I'll relight my cigar and then I'll tell you how
yeah,
I explain this. My cigars went out. These were a gift. These are Connecticut cigars, Dolce Vita. They're from Thompson Cigars in Connecticut.
are they good? What town are they from?
Thompson, I think it's called
Thompson.
Thompson Cigars. Yeah, I got a
I
box
know
of them.
where Thomaston is.
Well, there's Thomaston and then there's Thompson. And Thompson, Connecticut is up near the Rhode Island border.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I do know where it is.
it's pretty close to the casinos.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I lost my train of thought there.
You
Uh,
were talking about the beginning, how Israel got started, how it even came to be before all this
yeah,
started.
yeah. Saying we go back in time, just prior to World War One, right? And I mentioned Washington and Jefferson and their famous quotes, and how America was founded on avoiding foreign entanglements. And then you compare that to, you say, how do we get here where we're the only country with these bases all over the world? And what I wanted to say in that regard is the dude speak. How I put this in dude speak is, let's just say that me and you are hanging out and we're going to a local watering hole in Bristol, Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
And we're hanging out, we're checking out the ladies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these Jeeps pull up, right? And these French dudes get out, all in fatigues. And they come into the bar, very arrogant. They start hitting on all of our chicks, and they act like they own the place.
Yeah.
And we would look at them as what? Like, who are these assholes? They're occupiers.
Yeah.
And that's the way that the rest of the world looks at the United States, because we have these bases all over the world. We try to control what everyone else does. No one else does that. China has 1.5 bases all over the world. We have bases in countries Americans can't even pronounce. So
Yeah, we're the world police, man.
yeah,
Like
so
we police
exactly.
the world.
And you want to ask, like, how did we get there, right? So I told you Washington and Jefferson. Well, prior to World War One, World War One should have never been a world war. It was a European conflict
Okay.
largely between Great Britain and Germany, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Germany had it almost won, had the war nearly won. And the United States had no interest whatsoever in getting involved. But Lord Balfour and Great Britain he got together with Baron Rothschild. He reached out to Baron Rothschild, and he created something called the Balfour Declaration. And Zionism, which began in the early 1900s, already had a lot of influence on American politicians. So basically, you've heard of the Rothschild family, right? I don't
Of
know
course.
how deep
Yeah.
you go. So Baron Rothschild, what knew that he could get the Poles to drag the U.S. and U.S. politicians in, drag us into World War I inside of Great Britain. So the Balfour Declaration was what created the state of Israel. But the Palestinians were already living there. And there was double dealing on the part of the British to promise that land to the Arabs as well. So it was British double dealing where it started, but it dragged us into World War One. That European conflict became a world war. There were tons more deaths that didn't need to happen, but it was all a racket, and it was all big money with the Rothschild family and Lord Balfour. So the state of Israel, there you just say, put it on there, the state of Israel is born, right? So we're enamored in this, we're embroiled rather in this World War One. So many American lives are lost. All this American money is spent. And then we're flipping from being a sovereign nation that minds our own business and protects ourselves to becoming embroiled all over the world. And then that leads to the Treaty of Versailles after World War I is over, right? Which decimates Germany's economy and creates a World War I war hero, very loud, brash, and becomes a very dangerous man. Who am I talking about? Adolf Hitler. So that sowed the seeds for World War II. And there's a great book by Pat Buchanan called The Unnecessary War, where he talks about how the U.S. should have stayed out of World War II as well because of all the deaths we had. And he makes the case about Churchill wrangling us into that war. But there's the great book by five-star General Smedley Butler. War is a racket, and it's the most lucrative racket in the entire world.
Yeah. The more the war continues, the more money that they're going to make, because they need to produce these weapons. They need to be able to fund it. So we're dumping money, and these guys are just making the money. And we're losing because we're getting blamed for all of it, basically, right?
Yeah. And the real losers in all of this are the American people. We surrendered our sovereignty. So our politicians are no longer beholden to the American people. A country as wealthy as ours should have the very best healthcare system. We shouldn't have homelessness. All of these problems I talked about, the prison industrial complex. We shouldn't have all these people in prison. We're such a wealthy nation, but we've become the bitch of Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the rest of the world. I mean, this ridiculous war in Ukraine. I mean, NATO is such a great example. We want to force Ukraine into NATO because then they have to spend a certain percentage of their GDP, and they actually more than tripled that percentage with this Ukraine war on buying weapons from us, from the United States arms manufacturers. So it all comes down to money, man. But the losers in this, Staxx, are the American people.
Yeah, but so our debt, right? The American debt, it was at a certain point, and they needed like funding. Like they have a budget that they have to go by for different cities, for law enforcement, this and that. They said that they didn't have enough money for the debt, and then all of a sudden they got 900 million or $1 billion more than what their budget was supposed to be. So that's money laundering at its finest, man.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we're broke as a nation. And every politician, with the exception of one or two, is a lapdog of Israel because of the APAC and the Israeli lobby. And we just get 15 billion to Israel. Here's another 15 billion. They all voted for it. And there's a great saying, Staxx, that if you want to know who rules over you, who controls you, just figure out who you cannot criticize. And they're trying to censor Americans now in criticizing Israel or siding with the Palestinians. The Palestinian people, I mean, that none of this happened in a vacuum. I mean, they've been in an open air prison for decades. The Israel's had that policy of mowing the lawn. What do you think happens when you see, if you're a guy like us, and you see your mother or your sister or your daughter get killed, you become a terrorist. That doesn't breed successful people. That's how you create terrorists.
makes
So they
hatred.
wanted
You get
to.
hatred.
Yeah,
So you hate these people.
absolutely.
They killed your whole family. What are you gonna do, right?
Absolutely. You know, there's a great quote that terror is the poor man's war, and war is the poor man's terror. And it's so true. You know, Israel has all the power in this, and they're doing it with our money. It's disgusting enough that we send our money all over the world, but to see a genocide done with our money, it sickens me, and it should sicken every thinking American. There's so many distractions, right? And
Yeah.
that's Americans are all distracted by goofy stuff on TikTok or this or that, but people don't focus on the real war racket. And you know, to a certain degree, with me, man, you reach a certain point where you just say, "Look, this is not going to change." But you know, I want to at least educate people on what's going on, and because you have a show about gangsters and about crime, I want to point out who the true gangsters and criminals are, and what the biggest racket in the world is and has been for decades, for hundreds of years.
What about our border with all these young men, military age men, pouring into our border? Here, let me show you a picture so you guys can get a context of what's really going on at our border, because these people will be at your doorstep eventually.
Oh, absolutely, it's crazy, and
This
and I
is
can
our border.
and I can guarantee you this, man. I can guarantee you this. All those angry young men, all those angry Palestinians that have been kept in an open air prison for decades and have seen their family members gunned down, they're going to be refugees now. And they sure as hell aren't going to go to Israel. Israel's not going to take them. They want to move those people here to the United States. I mean, that's all part of the game, man. And the American people, at the end of the day, are the ones that get shit on. And
Like,
you
I
know,
don't
it's
think we
disgusting.
don't have the resources to take care of all these people. We
Absolutely
don't.
not.
New York's
Absolutely
starting to
not.
crumble over the weight of all these people coming in. Have you been to the city lately? New York City?
Yeah, I managed a campaign. I was telling you, for a real scumbag that was running for councilman up there, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. I flew up there and I left in a day because I couldn't stand it.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's
Yeah,
people everywhere. Like, it's insane.
it's awful. And you know, America, we have serious problems. I mean, I'm a father. My daughter's in her early 20s, and the average cost of a home in America has gone from 215,000 to 450,000. These big corporations, these scumbags, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, they want to turn us into a society where there's no more home ownership,
Yeah.
and it's disgusting. And the politicians aren't even talking about that. I mean, Bobby Kennedy talks about it, but I think they should be banned. These mega corporations should be banned from buying any land or homes in residential areas. That would solve the problem, but they don't want to solve the problem. We need to crash the housing market so that it's affordable again for young people. And the way inflation's gone, but we don't talk about that. We don't talk about Americans' problems. We're told that we have to worry about Israel and the Israeli people who have kept these folks in an open air prison for several decades and gunned them down periodically. And if we don't care about them over our own needs, then we're anti-Semitic. And that's completely ridiculous, because the loudest voices against Israel are Jewish voices. Dr. Norman Finkelstein, Glenn Greenwald, Miko Paulette, and these are the guys that are speaking the loudest, because they know, Zionism is disgusting, and it's what keeps the war machine going, and it's indoctrinated in the Baptist Church. I mean, which is absolutely ridiculous that the Baptist Church would be saying we have to protect Israel at all costs, when in reality, if you want to break it down, the Muslim people are actually are more appreciative of Jesus than the Jewish people are. I mean, you can watch videos, nothing against Jewish people, but Jewish people don't associate with Jesus. So the whole concept is ridiculous. They use religion, they abuse religion. And, like the old saying from the Guns N' Roses song, most organized religions, they make a mockery of humanity. Our governments are dangerous and out of control. They're just designed to keep the war machine going, man.
It is crazy. Like the future is looking pretty grim over here. They're trying to eliminate the middle class. They don't
Yeah,
want any middle class.
absolutely.
They want poor and rich, and that's it. No middle class.
Definitely. And, I'm a big believer in that the government should be helping the American people. And I really believe in putting Americans first over everything else. And our government is consumed, and our politicians are owned by the special interests that represent foreign governments. And those are the real gangsters. Those are you can talk about Johnny A. Light or Sammy the Bull or our buddy Larry Matza or any of these guys, from the life, and it's great to talk about. It's interesting topics. I mean, I know that life very well, but the real gangsters, are Netanyahu, Zelensky. Those are the guys that we should study, because they affect your daily life. They're the gangsters that own your politicians. They're
You
the
don't think
gangsters
that
that
they're
pick
just the
your pocket.
face? You don't think that they're just the face of it, and there's other people pulling the strings behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, to a certain degree, but Netanyahu is a criminal. He's not just a war criminal; he's a criminal, and there were protests throughout Israel to remove him. He's an embezzler, and he's basically used this as a distraction and committed mass murder as a distraction to keep himself in power. Yeah, there's people behind them that are within the political networks of these countries, and they're all the true gangsters, man. They're the true
Yeah.
gangsters, and war is the worst racket. But the prison industrial complex too. I mean, the prison industrial complex is a huge racket too, man.
Yeah, it's insane. Insane. They put people in prison, and they don't care about helping people and wanting them to change and not go back. They want people to go back so that they can keep the market going.
Definitely, the big three is the war racket, prison industrial complex, and big pharma. Those are the big three, and they own our politicians. And the average American is not going to get a fair shake.
It's sad, man. And all these people are all the illegal immigrants. I have nothing against immigrants, because they should be. My grandmother was an immigrant, my great grandmother,
Sure.
and They should be documented, though. You don't know who these people are coming
Well,
into the country.
it's even worse what's going on now at our border. Bobby Kennedy Jr. did a great expose on this, where he went down to our border and he saw how the cartels are basically controlling our border and who comes into our border. And they're basically owning these people and sending them to certain cities. Because Biden, he surrendered the border to the cartels. I mean, the immigration issue is a whole other issue, but it's just another example of how our politicians have sold us out.
They keep saying that there's cells over here. There's terrorist cells in this country that
Oh yeah, no doubt. But
are
at the end of the day,
mobilizing. So what do you do to stop it? What do you do?
it's only going to get worse now because of what's going on in the Middle East, Israel and Gaza, and Israel committing all this genocide against these people. I mean, it's just imagine if you've been in an open air prison. Your dad was and mom were in an open air prison for years. You had this occupier that was coming in, mowing the lawn, killing people. I mean, they've created these terrorists for years, and they're not bad people. I mean, I would be the same way if I were them. But now these people are displaced, and our politicians need to stand up, and they're not going to. They need to stand up and say, "Hey, we're not going to take a single one of these people." They need to send them all into Israel because Israel started this problem. I mean, I think they should dump them all into Israel, but that's not going to happen.
Never. That would never happen. And then all these protests. It's insane. I've been in the middle of the protests in New York City,
Yeah,
and they're shutting shit down, man. Grand Central Station, I could not get on the train. There's people everywhere screaming, and they
yeah.
got fake blood dumped on. Who knows? It could have been real blood, but it looked real, but I don't know. But they have blood dumped all over themselves, screaming with bullhorns, and it was
Yeah,
just
I mean,
crazy.
people. I've never wanted to go to a protest. I don't like crowds and stuff. But people have a right to protest, and I can understand with everything that's going on, like why people protest. But to
Yeah.
me, obviously, I'm 100%, full on free speech guy. I believe in freedom of speech, and I think people have a right to protest. But to me, it doesn't really do anything, and it's better, much better to do what I'm doing right now, just talking on your show and reaching a large audience and explaining to people what's really going on, than holding a sign and shouting, with a group of people.
Yeah, and there's a ton of them doing it out there. You should see it, man. I'm trying to find the video right now. I
Well, it's
was out
crazy,
there.
man. It's crazy, Staxx. I'm telling you, brother. But let's kind of switch gears a little bit, because I'm gonna be down at Larry's house on Tuesday, and January 2nd, and uh, you've been talking to Richard Haas, the world famous playwright. Have you had Richard on the show yet?
No, no. I will in
Yeah,
the future though.
yeah. He's a wild guy, interesting dude for sure. He's a renowned playwright, and Larry's asked me to play the role of him. That's loosely based on him from his book, The Life, and The Soldier Laughs. I know you put up on your channel. I did a little quick read from the script.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that when the show comes up north, you're going to be playing the writer in this two-man show, and some Broadway and off-Broadway shows yourself. So we should
Surprise,
totally.
surprise, everybody. I didn't tell anybody about it. So surprise, surprise. I'm gonna be playing the writer.
Yeah, so we're going to do a show over at Larry's house on Tuesday, at Larry Motz's house on Tuesday. When I'm down there, we'll do another broadcast of your show. And then yesterday, I was hanging out. I was out in Orlando for some business, and I stopped and was trying to meet up with Jason Reinhardt. but he got held up in an appointment, and I wanted to miss the massive Orlando traffic, so I missed him. But I was over at Hooters by UCF, and man, you talk about some tomatoes. Oh my God. You know, just some real natural, young, natural beauties in that place. But what Jason and I will come on your show too, and Jason is supposed to play the writer down here. You're supposed to do it up north, and he's down here. So this is we should tell people the Soldier Laughs is written as a two-man show, and it's kind of reminds me a little bit of the original Bronx Tale, right?
Yeah.
Which started out as a play with jazz. And the character that I play is loosely based on Larry, and then the character that you play is like the writer that I'm talking to.
Yeah. It's like their first interactions together, right? How they
Yeah,
were introduced and all this, and they're trying to like explain each other's lives.
exactly. And you and I will talk more about that, like when I'm down at Larry's house. Um, but yeah, man, I just want to ask you, what do you think? You know, just wrapping up about what we talked about here. Did you know a lot of this stuff already about the war racket and how this craziness works?
Yeah, I know quite a bit about it. I've been trying to avoid a lot of it on social media because a lot of the images are really disturbing, man, on Instagram. And it's like you'll be scrolling like, oh shit, I don't want to see that. Like people will send it to me, and I'm just like, it's stuff you never seen in your life, stuff that'll instantly turn your stomach. And it's
Disgusting. It's disgusting. And I'll tell you, I'm a big believer in the U.S., you know, staying out of conflict and minding our own business. So you'd say, why are we talking about this? The reason I'm talking about it is because Israel is doing this with our money. If we were to cut them off, if we were to turn the faucet off and dry up the funds, this would end. But we don't have the balls to do it. And Israel gets more money than the next four countries combined that we give, you know, from the United States. They get more money for Israel than the next four countries that we give money to. So the billions that we give them are how they're able to commit this atrocity. And like I said, the whole thing with October 7th, I mean, it's been proven now that IDF that they were killing their own citizens.
yeah, they were using a tank and all this stuff.
Yeah.
They have the most sophisticated system in the world, right? Where people can't just go
Mhm.
across the border and all this. It's impossible for them to
Yeah,
be able to do what they
they
did.
stood down because it's, you know, it was definitely smells like a false flag. I mean, they stood down and they wanted to wipe Gaza off the map, and it's awful. And my tailor is Palestinian. You know, I had a 2-hour conversation with him about this, and he's a great guy. But I mean, how could you not become angry and militarized and a terrorist if you had to live under those conditions for so long? And I feel horrible for the people, but I don't want them to be coming here. You know,
So what's the solution, Matt? What's the solution for this?
I'll tell you what I would do. You know, my solution would be, and nobody would want to hear this, I would cut funding completely to Israel, stop all the settlements, and I would basically, since Israel leveled the majority of Gaza, I would completely end the state of Israel just like it was created by the Balfour Declaration. And I would displace those people. I mean, that's what I would do. I don't believe in Zionism. I don't believe that, you know, I like Jewish people, but the other thing people don't understand is Judaism and Zionism have always been at odds. True religious Orthodox Jews were against kicking people out of their homes and creating the state of Israel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're asking me what I would do, it would never happen. I would disband and end the country of Israel completely, and I would have the Gazans take over their land that they lost from the British double dealing. You know, going back to the start of World War I. But you know that ain't never going to happen.
No. Do you think any of this has to do with religious beliefs? Do you think a
Very
lot of this
little.
has to do with
No,
religious?
people claim that, and the people who claim that are propagandized because the true religious Jews are not Zionists. It's a secular Jews,
Yeah.
and the whole idea that Muslims hate us because we drink scotch or go to the movies or whatever is complete bullshit.
I
It
know a lot
always,
of Muslims, and I got
yeah,
love
they're
for
great.
them.
They're
We're
great people.
we're really good friends. I
Yeah,
got no
that's
problem with Muslims. I don't know
I mean,
where that
that's
comes from.
propaganda, and that's
Yeah.
moronic propaganda. That they're great people. They just want to be left alone. They never wanted to get kicked out of their homes. They never wanted to get caught up in the war racket. But it's I think Iran and some of my best friends, Kamal Shalarus, the Prince of Persia, who you should have on the show, who was I managed when he was in UFC, my old training partner and one of my best friends. He could tell you, Iran, they're proud people. They're nationalistic. They don't want to take over the world. Uh, I don't believe that they want to. I think that we create it goes back to propaganda going back to World War II. Like, look at when Pearl Harbor was bombed. Like, there were all these paintings in America about the evil, slanty-eyed Japanese and all this propaganda. They bombed Pearl Harbor because we were starving them of gas and oil because we didn't want them becoming an empire. They were showing signs that they wanted to become an empire. So we fucked with them with their oil supply. And we were starving their oil supply. That's why they bombed Pearl Harbor. Always follow the money. It's all propaganda. And there's a lot of Americans that are very uh, propagandized and hate Muslims, and a lot of times I don't even know if they're Muslims. Like they might even be like an Indian person or somebody like me when I had black hair before my hair turned gray that has a darker complexion. They'll look at you and they'll think you're like I did the Sheik in pro wrestling, and all I had to do was turn up my mustache and put on my Sheik, and I went back and did it after this nonsense in the Middle East. There's a lot of people that are ignorant and they're propagandized against the Muslims, whoever it's going to be. Like we have to have this enemy. When in reality, if you sit down and you talk to any people, whether it's Jewish people, Arab people, Black people, anybody, South American people, Filipino people, whoever it is, most people are cool. Most people are cool. But the real gangsters are in government. They want to divide us. And that's really how war propaganda works. And what I want to do on your show and any other venue I go on and talk about this stuff is just educate people on what's really going on and stop a lot of the ignorant propaganda that one religion is bad or the other is bad. This isn't about religion; it's about money. It all comes down to the Benjamins.
I find on the internet a lot of people want you to pick sides. And
Of
I'm like,
course,
I'm
yeah,
not on a side. I'm not picking a side. I have no side. I have no desire to pick a side. I'm for
absolutely.
peace.
It's like that. It's Larry Mazza has a great quote, which is that the word politics, poly is many, and ticks are blood sucking insects, and they want to divide us because at the end of the day, they don't want you. Politicians don't want you to think about your own self interest, your own economic situation, your healthcare situation. Uh, they don't want you to think about that. They want you to feed you distractions. And like I said, they've been bought and sold by foreign governments for years, and we don't. We've lost our sovereignty as Americans because of it. But yeah, most people all over the world are cool, man. I mean, dude, my Taylor Palestinian dude is fucking awesome guy, man. And we talked for like 2 hours. I heard it was awful what I learned about his family, man, and how people have been killed for years with this mowing of the lawn. I mean, it's disgusting what Israel does. But
And they're able to arrest children, I hear.
oh, they're able to
Like,
kill children. I mean, God, what they did in the hospitals, you know, with the killing children with incubators, shutting off the incubators because they thought that there were terrorist cells at the bottom of the hospital, and it turned out that there weren't. But they killed a bunch of people in the hospital. It's disgusting. You know, it's war is disgusting. It's sickening. You know, to me, I've never bought into it. I've always known it was a racket. And you know, I have friends that went into the military and all that. I never wanted to. You know, I'd rather support myself and my family. No one's gonna fuck with my family. I'll fuck back harder than you ever imagined. You know, I'll do things to give your fucking nightmares, and I have. But I don't need to be part of some fucking army of, some bullshit army. You know, but for a corrupt government. Fuck that. You know.
yeah, it's really sad what's going on, man. Hopefully they can get it together, because we're going to be the ones suffering with all these people coming into our country. They're taking over the resources for the veterans. They're kicking the veterans out of the hotels and letting these people in.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't care about our veterans. We don't take care of our veterans in this country. We don't take care of our people in this country. I mean, it's all about divide. It's these bullshit names: liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat. They're all a bunch of scumbags. Like I say, poly is many, and ticks are blood-sucking insects. You know.
You nailed that right on the head, man.
Yeah, brother. But we got some cool stuff coming up ourselves, man, and I'm looking forward to getting up on the stage with you, man. And we're gonna be actors. We're gonna be renowned actors here with the Soldier Laughs.
You're damn right. People are gonna be shocked when they see this, man. It's a whole different aspect for me. You're used to this type of stuff, but I'm not.
Well, I always say, like, if you give me a mic, you know, I could entertain people, whether it's stand-up comedy, MMA, pro wrestling. Give me a mic, I'll entertain people. But when it comes to a script, that's a little bit different. And
It's a lot.
I'm having fun with the script, though, because there's so many laughs in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have a blast with it, man. Yeah, I appreciate your time, Staxx, man. We're gonna have some fun. 2024 is gonna be a good year.
Really good. Italian Stallion, thank you so much for the $10 contribution. I really appreciate that. If anyone else wants to donate to the show, you can hit up the Cash App at Chattin with Staxx, or you can hit up Venmo, PayPal, Super Sticker, Super Chats, Zelle, all that good stuff. I appreciate every single dollar. It helps. It goes a long way.
We got to get you down to Florida in 2024, brother.
Yeah, man, I'll be down there.
Yeah, you come down and we'll hang out. We'll hang out at Larry's. It's a good place to go, and we'll hang out at Capone's, you know, down in Palm Beach. And that's where Larry wants to do the first show down here for the Soldier Laughs, the first play, and record it is at Capone's in Palm Beach.
Hey, I'll be down there, 100%.
Yeah, we'll have a good time, brother.
I appreciate taking the time.
You too, man. You too. I'm sitting here sipping my Chivas scotch. Yeah.
And make sure everyone that's watching, go check out Hannibal TV. You got some good interviews and things on there. Hannibal TV. Man. Shout out to Hannibal.
Yeah, just Google King of CT, YouTube or wherever, or the Granimal, which was my fight nickname. So King of Connecticut came about off a karaoke challenge. A lot of people don't know that. There's actually a funny video that explains how I became the King of Connecticut. But I was always known as the Granimal, coming up from amateur wrestling, judo, grappling, MMA. And then when I got into pro wrestling, I was in pro wrestling for a while before I got King of Connecticut. This guy, Chuck Sloan, who was a great actor too, man. He's been in some movies. Chuck Sloan, he challenged me to do karaoke. So King of Connecticut was like an Elvis thing, and then it just kind of stuck. And I got the pompadour though, pompadour
Yeah,
popping.
man. Your pompadour is looking pretty smooth today, man.
Yeah, man. I just want, my message with all this stuff is just love your family and enjoy your life, enjoy your holidays, but just understand that we're being worked, by our government, and don't fall for this war propaganda bullshit.
Definitely. And going into the new year, I hope everyone has a great new year. What are you doing for New Year's Eve, man?
I'm laying low, man. I think I'm going to be doing some karaoke.
Yeah,
Over
yeah,
at
you're
the
gonna be the king of Florida down there.
Yeah, I do karaoke at this rum bar that's in the Hilton, in Daytona. Like, right, I've been trying to get Jason Reinhardt to come out there. It's a fun place,
Shout out
and
to Jason. Great guy.
yeah, right. Stay right. I'm gonna stay right in the hotel, and we'll hang out there, so I don't have to go anywhere. I like to stay in one place. Like I said, I don't like to get out on the roads. But if you do have a problem with the DUI or a personal injury, you can hit me up. My Facebook name and my Instagram name is Matthew Granamania King, GranAmaniaKing, or king.of.Connecticut, all spelled out on Instagram. And let me tell you a story. I just got this girl. You'll appreciate this story. Exotic dancer, right? It's a great example of how I can get you money if you're in an accident. She was an exotic dancer down here in Florida, stripper, and the bouncer was walking. He was holding a table, and he fell, and she was talking to a customer, hit her in the side of the head with the table, knocked her out, right? And
What?
so she doesn't remember anything. She just remembered like waking up the next day, right? So this
Yeah.
happened. This happened back in the early part of the summertime, right? And so I signed her on the case. But what I do is, especially with TBI, because I'm real knowledgeable on TBI. I ran a lot of cases for UFC fighters. I got them into my friend's clinics where they do these cognitive tests that are very, very good, hold up in court. And they put her through all these cognitive tests. They had her keep a journal for months. And so, and to make a long story short, she just got her settlement this morning, $360,000.
Damn.
Anybody who,
She'll be good for a while. She doesn't got to
oh yeah,
strip for any longer.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Now, anybody who's involved, now she didn't have any spinal injuries. She didn't have any back injuries. She was banged up, but it was all brain trauma, all TBI. So if you've got brain issues from an accident, a lot of lawyers will just shuffle you through, and you won't you'll get maybe 50 grand, right? But
Yeah.
if you do it slow and you go through the process with the cognitive testing, and I'm very meticulous with my clients, I can get you big money. So keep that in mind. And if you've been involved in a car accident, and you're injured in a car accident anywhere in all 50 states, I can help you with our 10X Law program. And if you're here in Florida and you've had a DUI, hit me up. We can help you out. You don't want these things to ruin your life.
And I put a link for your Facebook in the description of this video. So if you guys got any type of problem, hit them up and I'll get 30%. We'll say that.
Yeah,
30%.
we got to give the Staxx man a cut for sure.
I appreciate you, man.
You too,
Thank you.
brother. You too, man. It's been fun, and I hope you have a safe time. Good night up there. It feels kind of like Connecticut, Florida today because it's cold. It's pretty chilly down here, but it feels good though.
Yeah, it was rainy and shitty. It's been shitty the last 3 days up here.
Yeah, yeah. I think we had a good discussion. Hopefully, your fans enjoyed it. Something different for the channel.
Yeah. And I got another interview dropping tonight. An interview I did with a P9 skinhead from California prison system. So you
Oh
don't
yeah.
want to miss that one's at 9 o'clock. It's a pretty good interview. It's a lot of information in that one.
Yeah,
And
I always tell a story about when I was coaching for Capo MMA, and I had Richie Giambetta used to recruit from the state pen rather than Penn State. And we had one fighter who was a black gangbanger and both heavyweights, and another fighter who was head of the Aryan Nation in our prison. And they ended up getting along and becoming friends. We went to the titty bar, and I was shocked because it was a black booby bar, and the Aryan Nation guy was getting lap dances from the black girls. He had a great time, was hanging out, bullshitting with us, and you realize that the prison system, like we said, the prison industrial complex, they want to divide you. The government wants to divide you. Social media wants to divide you. These social media companies, don't let it happen. Get along with people, get to know people, help people if you can. That's what life is all about. And don't fall for this scumbag propaganda from the government.
definitely. And I really appreciate it, man. It's been a great conversation. And you guys go check out his links. The link for his cookbook's in the description. And I'll be talking to you soon. And if you guys like this content, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. And if you don't like this content, go fuck yourself. Start your own podcast.
And I'll tell you, Staxx, man, I want to end it with this joke. I did it last time, but some people might not have heard this joke. What's 230 pounds, dashingly handsome, and disappears in an instant?
The grandma. Stay tuned. Don't miss tonight's show. It's going to be a really good one. See you guys soon.